thank you so much for being a part of the show. It's such an honor to have you doing this, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time.
It's my pleasure.
Wonderful. Well, I know, of course, from Facebook and from what you post, that you are very, very grateful for what Star Blazers gave you and for all the fans. And it's really, really wonderful to meet someone in the industry who does give back so much. So thank you for that, too.
Oh, yeah. You know, with every year that goes by, you know, I talk with Dave all the time. You know, it can't be that many years ago. We realized the other day it's almost 40 years ago.
It is.
That we did the dub, and you know, Dave and I, we're almost at our 20th wedding anniversary, and it's like, you know what? We have to figure out a way to stop time.
Exactly, right? And the cool thing about this show is that you watch it, and it doesn't look like it was 40 years ago. It's still just so top quality and top notch.
Yeah, and you know, it's not the slickest, you know, CGI computer fancy schmancy stuff, but you know what? People are watching it with their grandchildren. And the cutest things, you know, some of the cutest things I hear at conventions and, you know, getting fan mail and talking with good people like you, and I've met so many awesome people. You know, their kids know the theme song by heart, and I just have to give you a little thing to look at.
Oh, please do.
After we're finished, go on YouTube and do a search on Star Blazers Hiccup.
Star Blazers Hiccups?
Star Blazers Hiccup. You will cry. It is so cute. But yeah, people they're watching it with their grandchildren. You know, mom and dad make up funny lyrics to the theme song, and you know, get lectured by the kids. That's not how you sing it.
That's what happens when you have something timeless. Like, that goes to show how truly timeless and immortal it is as a work of art.
It is. It stands the test of time. I've heard from people, actually I heard this from someone who didn't know who I was, so I know it was from the heart. I overheard a conversation at a convention that Star Blazers from 38 years ago is the standard by which other anime is judged.
Oh, absolutely.
This was the gateway show. A lot of people, my husband included, this was one of the first shows that he ever watched.
Yeah.
And you know, it was a low budget show at the time. It wasn't even called anime, so it was before the whole boom happened. But at the time when we did Star Blazers, it was the only show of its kind being done anywhere in the country.
That's incredible.
It was, you know, not a big, you know, mega budget, splashy, you know, production. You know, we got paid $100 an episode, and you know, we didn't have our names in the credits.
Yeah.
And you know, the only people that we knew were actually, for a fact, were watching, were, you know, mom and dad and, you know, cousins and siblings.
Oh, look what I'm doing.
Right. But little did I know that, you know, a lovely 10-year-old boy down in Atlanta, Georgia, would then go on to talk with his friends at school, and somebody else would mention it. And it was like, you watch that show too? I love that show. I gotta run home every day so I can.
Matthew used to do the same thing.
Yeah, and it's just so amazing. And I didn't find out about fandom or, you know, conventions or any of that until about 16 or 17 years after the fact, because this was long before, you know, Blockbuster Video or YouTube or, you know, Netflix or any of that.
So you saw it if you saw it. Like, there was no other way to catch it.
Yeah, exactly. And VCRs, hold on to your hat. VCRs, I couldn't afford one. I was, this was my first professional job as an actress. So, I was freaking out. I was going to be on television and all this. It was wild. But I couldn't afford a VCR. They were like $1,000 a piece.
In the late 70s, early 80s, it would have been like $1,000. And nobody really had them.
No. And, when the show ended, after we did the Comet Empire, the third season hadn't even been produced in Japan yet. So we didn't know that there even was going to be one.
And because you didn't have the credits, they had no idea who was behind it.
Exactly, because we weren't in the union. They wanted beginners. They wanted people who wouldn't command those higher paychecks.
Yeah.
And we were also just really hungry to do
absolutely, because you were in New York, right? You were at ADA, correct?
Yeah. I had gone to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts for 2 years, and then after I graduated, I realized that I didn't really know, anything about kind of behind the scenes, how a casting. How a casting session works.
I was in the same boat. I'm also from New York, and I did the audition scene for a while, and it's just like, it beats you down so badly, so you're so lucky that you got work from that.
And you have to kind of psych yourself up to almost try to fool yourself into hoping they tell you no. Or something like that. This way, when it does happen, you won't be disappointed, or you won't be as disappointed. It's a crazy business. It's absolutely crazy. And I knew that I needed to, there were things that I didn't know. And so what I decided to do, rather than, head for Broadway right away and all that, was to, just kind of find work in kind of related jobs. So I did get a job actually as a receptionist at a casting agency, and I worked as a sales rep for a guy who wrote jingles for radio and television.
Oh.
And, just kind of one job led to another. And when the Star Blazers audition came along, I was working at another acting school in New York. You may have even heard of it. It's called Wiest Barron. Dwight Wiest and Bob Barron were the two owners of the school. And I was working in the front office. I was answering telephones and doing filing and, various things. I would help, for the soap opera class. I'd write cue cards for the directors. And I was busy kind of building my network along with getting a really good education to sort of fill in the blanks.
Because you can't get a job without knowing people, but you can't know people without getting a job. It's such a chain.
Exactly. You have to be certifiably crazy.
You do.
As a career, and you have to do it because you love it.
That's the only way. You can't do it any other way, or else you'll just drive yourself crazy.
If you end up making $1 million, I'd take it. My mother didn't raise a fool, okay? But if you go with
it's like, if I could do a higher paying job, I would, but I don't want to. I want to perform.
I don't want to. I just don't. You have to do it. You have to do it because you love it.
Exactly.
So, and hopefully, in my case, it all depends on how you define success. For the most part. For me, success is this lady here. Hello. And I actually did do one other anime character, and that was because the director was a Star Blazers fan.
No way! When was this?
So, I mean, this is my success story. I am so amazingly proud to be able to sit here talking with you 3,000 miles away.
Yes!
Bouncing off a satellite or however we have
somewhere up there, You
know what? Because of this one
Because of your work.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Well, that is always wonderful to hear. I mean, so many people, of course, with me in school because I went to the American Musical and Dramatic Academy of the way. Yeah. And, there's so many times our teachers were fantastic. They just said, so long as you are making people happy with your art, then that means you've been a successful artist, because that's what it's all about. The point of art is to give back. So you've definitely done that.
Oh, goodness. It's just, I don't take it lightly. I will never take it for granted. I don't care how many times I hear, again, things like I used to run home from school just to hear the first few notes of that theme song.
Well, it gets you energized for it. It's such a great theme song because it makes you excited to see the show, and that's what it's all about.
It does, and that's that's a lot of people come up to me and say, well, my boyfriend doesn't want to watch it, or my girlfriend doesn't. How do I get my kids interested in it? You know what I say? Play that theme song for them.
Yeah.
That's how everybody else got hooked.
Oh yeah.
And just let them enjoy it. Don't try to force it on them or anything else. Let them come home and from work or whatever, wherever they are, let them come home and see you enjoying it. That'll probably get the fish on the hook.
For sure. And for me, how I got into it was Matthew had just mentioned it so often, and I love space sagas. I love a great story in space with amazing characters and great music, and it has all of that. And he had told me, I love this show, let's watch it. And I was like, okay. And he said he expected me to just be like, oh, that was good. But I was like, all right, let's sit and watch the whole thing now. And now here I am talking to you.
Oh, goodness. Because, it's got something for everybody.
It does.
It's got romance. It's got loyalty. It's got, stuff blowing up. Like the battle
great villains,
all that, and cute little robots, and
cute little robots who sometimes need to learn manners, though. But he does. IQ does become a gentleman more.
That's it. But if the worst thing he does is flip her skirt a little bit, it's tame compared to what's out there today.
Oh yeah.
So, but even the unedited version, because back then the censors went crazy.
Oh yes,
editing.
I believe he lifts her skirt 5 or 6 times in the original.
Right. I mean, they let that in, but there was a lot cut out that I didn't even realize until many years later when we were able to see the unedited versions, the original Japanese versions. Mm-hmm. And we're just looking at each other kind of like, they cut that out? There's nothing, there was no real gratuitous violence or gratuitous sex or any of that stuff.
And so many more people die in the original too. I mean, when Sergeant Knox sacrifices himself, he's dead in the original. He doesn't live.
They stay dead. They don't come back 3 episodes later.
No.
Or or whatever. And people, they show one of the most important things that they show the consequences, and they show people grieving.
Yeah, it's very relatable and real.
Yeah. It's not blood and gore and limbs flying all over the place and all the crap that usually gets crammed in when nobody has a real story to tell. This has a good story. It had a story,
and that's why it didn't need that, because it didn't rely on the, the cheap effects to do that.
Right.
It had a great story with characters you instantly fell in love with and you felt for. That was one of the main things that drew me to it, was as soon as I saw it, I was like, there's nobody here that I don't want to know about. I want to know all their stories. I want to know why they're here, Why do they do
Right.
this? Why do they do that? Because it's great storytelling.
It is. It really is. And it, it still is.
Yeah.
It still is today.
It is. So many people, because not a lot of people, unfortunately, in my generation know about it. But that makes me the more excited because I get to share it with them and see their reaction. Have them be like, oh, does no one know about this?
Yeah. Yeah. But, I see the cutest kids at conventions and videos of kids, and it's so awesome.
Have you ever met any little Novas?
I have actually friends of ours who live up in New Jersey, Phil and Carolyn Lipari. If you're watching this, hi. Their daughter Tanya is the most recent little Nova. I think she was, oh golly, I think she was 5 or something like that. It was a few years.
Oh my gosh.
I'll find pictures of her and
please, I would love to see that so much.
Goodness. Yeah. But yeah, the Novas are getting younger all the time.
They are?
And
No, I'm kind of old, but
Oh,
I'm
hey.
but I just love the character so much. I actually wanted to talk to you about how, in this day and age, little girls have so many more heroes. They have Wonder Woman now. They have the women in the Star Wars films. There are so many little girls role models now. So how do you think Nova can influence girls of today?
Well, there are things about her that are timeless. She's self-assured. She doesn't put up with any crap.
No.
No, her sweetie, Derek Wildstar, puts his arm around her, and she thinks he may be getting a little familiar, and she slaps his hand. It's like, dude, I'm not gonna go there. Okay.
Oh, too bad, Derek.
And she knows what's important. She knows, the Star Force has a mission. They have to get to Iskandar and back, and they have to do these things, and they encounter all these difficulties. And it's working together as a team, and all sorts of different important lessons that she you can tell she had good parents.
Yeah.
I see a lot of myself in her, the way she was written. I was taught, you take responsibility for your actions. You do something wrong, you apologize for it.
Yeah.
And you when someone says they're sorry, you forgive them when they're sincerely sorry for something. So I was raised with all of this good stuff, and then that's why this character is so important to me, because so much of what I learned was written for this character.
Now, do you feel like you brought some of that to her, like you had the lines, and part of that was brought by you?
Yeah.
I can't imagine how it couldn't be.
Yeah. Yeah, because we didn't have any inkling what the show was going to be about. I mean, we had a basic premise, and we would the way we kind of getting into sort of the technical way that we did each episode, they found that it was most economical if each one of us went into the sound booth alone. Because when you're particularly from Japanese to English, the translations don't always work.
No.
So you have to, we'd have to sit there, because I'd say a line and I'd finish, and the little mouth would still be moving. So we're like, okay,
I have to
rewrite
change this.
time.
Well, it's so funny, especially with subtitles too. Matthew and I make fun of all the time for the subtitles when Derek and Venture first encounter Astra. The subtitle is, "That's a woman, right?" And it's like, what kind of translation is that? That's a woman, right?
But yeah, that was kind of what made it kind of nerve-wracking, was because we were alone. We didn't have our scene partner to play off of, and we sort of had to just sort of read the script as soon as we got there. We didn't have time to do a lot of rehearsing or anything. And we would get the script, and sometimes I would, get through 4 or 5 episodes in a day, because I do just my lines from episode 1, and then 2, and so on and so on. And then Ken Meserole, who played Derek Wildstar, or, Tom Tweedy, who did Mark Venture, or, whoever came in after, whoever I shared the scene with, they would be scheduled in after me. And, if your fellow voice artist was in before you had the benefit of being able to hear them. Because a dead giveaway that everybody's been in alone is if the conversation doesn't flow the way it ought to. That's another huge compliment that we get. People are just, wait a minute. You guys didn't record all this stuff together?
Yeah.
And that's a testament.
It is. It was a great, talented group of people, yourself included, of course, who brought the characters to life. That it doesn't feel like when you're watching it that everyone is by themselves. It feels like everyone's together, communicating with one another, and that's true talent.
Yeah, and that's just one of the many things that's so special after all this time.
Yeah.
Is that people are still so impressed by the content and the acting and everything involved. It's just been the most amazing time.
I bet.
And the most special thing about it was it brought Dave and me together. We met at a convention in Atlanta, which coincidentally is where my mother and father met.
Oh, so really? How funny.
Atlanta is like the true love
That's just like the place to fall in love.
You want to find your true love? Go to Atlanta. You'll find him there.
That's amazing.
From that first convention, this was back in 1997, was my first convention. So we're, all these years later, we're still getting invitations, and the audiobook that I'm working on now.
Yes.
I want to give it a quick plug. It's called
Please do. I actually wanted you to talk about your projects. Please tell us all about it.
It's called Holland's Air, H-E-I-R, Holland's Air, and it is not unlike Star Blazers in that it takes place. It's like a space themed Sentai show. Which there are several of those around these days, and it was, the influences are there, and the author is a Star Blazers fan.
Well, gee, I wonder what inspired her then.
I'm getting other awesome work because
That's
of
amazing.
This show.
Now, would you say that the show influenced the majority of the work you do?
Well, I've done other audiobook work. I had a client in Australia, and I had a client in Japan that I did a really impressive project for. So I have this sort of like little international consortium going on.
Oh.
That all happened because of the internet.
Because of that.
And I've just met so many awesome people. And even if the work doesn't relate, or even if the authors weren't aware of Star Blazers, they have been since. They have become so since. So we're kind of spreading the word, and people who have been influenced by it have approached me, and life is good. Life is so good.
I can imagine. I mean, it's just an honor to be here talking to you, because
you're a sweetheart.
Oh, thank you, Slaughter. But it's so wonderful because Nova is so different. Even though she is such a great female heroine like the others I mentioned, she is so different from them because she has so much class. They never objectified her in any way because she didn't need to be. And that's why, for me, the big difference between the new version and the classic is that the new design for her is just, I'm not a fan because she looks so generic. She looks like every other anime girl, and that, you know, she's so classically beautiful.
This is the only Nova for me. I don't presume to judge and, or dictate to anyone else. They want to watch it,
of course,
enjoy it. But all I ask is that you respect my lack of enthusiasm.
Of course, everyone has opinions, and like I said, I'm not a huge fan.
Exactly.
But what I do love is that for the people who have no idea about the original, but they come across this, it piques their curiosity, and then they do their research, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is way better. In my opinion, of course. But
well, thank you. I have to admit, I share your opinion.
Yeah, and that's fantastic for, fans and cast members of the original series. And I did want to ask you, speaking of fans, obviously since 1997, you've been to a ton of conventions. Now, in that time, I'm sure you've met tons of amazing people, but what's been your favorite fan interaction that you've had?
Wow. I think if my life depended on it, I wouldn't be able to answer that.
Really?
There have been so many different stories. So many people with the same story. So many people we, excuse me.
Oh, you're fine. That'll be cut out.
Who were going through, when I start gabbing, I should really...
Gab away. I am loving hearing all of this. This is incredible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. It's not a problem. There were people who were going through, their parents were going through a divorce. And we were their, I don't want to say that we were their friends, but we were a measure of encouragement and like a positive force and something positive to hang on to. And that's just one of thousands of things that I've heard.
That's
so
beautiful.
To single one out would just not, like I said, I couldn't even if, oh goodness. I know I'm sounding kind of like a babbling idiot right now.
No, this is incredible. It's really beautiful.
It's just overwhelming sometimes to have experienced something like this, because nobody I know has this experience, has had this kind of experience, and to have people who are just as fiercely protective of this amazing show as I am. And that's, I don't know, that's kind of why, I object to maybe one version over another. To me, this doesn't need fixing.
It didn't.
That's why
kids love it still.
There's a reason this show, this version, is still so popular today. And doesn't show any signs of slowing down. No. Either.
In fact, it's growing more. I've noticed is that more and more people are starting to know about it, and that must just be such a blessing in your life to have this little project after you went to school that grows.
When somebody comes along and starts changing things and fixing things that don't need fixing. And all of that stuff, Mama Bear gets protective of her cub.
No, that is your baby, though. I mean,
oh goodness, because nobody messes with this.
Oh yeah.
It's as simple as that. So anyway, I just realized the power on my phone is about down to 4%.
Oh
no! So I just wanted to let you know, so it doesn't just cut us off.
Okay. So I will be aware of that.
This has been so much fun.
I'm having such a wonderful time. It's so wonderful to hear these stories from you. I mean,
I'll talk until the cows come home. This is something I am so passionate about.
You and me both, in totally different ways, of course, but
yeah.
I feel you. I mean, that's why I started this vlog, because I just wanted to talk about it and talk to people who love it and who were such a big part of it, and it's just, it's amazing.
Oh goodness. I'm just so happy that we finally were able to hook up together.
Yes, me too. I mean, it's such an honor. It's so surreal.
Slow internet connections aren't going to stand in our way.
Couldn't stop us. The power of two Novas couldn't stop
it. to quote a famous phrase, we will never give up hope.
No.
That's right.
So I have one more question for you, because I'm actually going to ask this to every cast member I get the chance to talk to.
Okay.
So, of all the scenes when you were recording them, since you noted that you didn't really get to interact with the cast members, so either while you were recording or later on after you got to see the finished project, what is your favorite Star Blazers scene?
Oh, goodness. Well, the one that pops into my head for many reasons was, I call it Showdown with Desolate.
That's my favorite too. I already know what you're going to say.
Derek has been wounded. Nova picks up the gun. Deathlock is standing there. I won't give out any spoilers, but for those who have seen it, you know which scene I'm talking about.
Yes.
And that was one of the other things that is so impressive about this show, is that the villain is not just a villain because he can be evil, because he can be.
Right.
The Earth was covered in radiation because the Deathlock needed a new homeworld for his people. He was trying to protect his people.
Yeah.
So I mean, the Earth people didn't realize that.
And that's what the Star Force is trying to do too, of course, is protect their people.
And when you find out, when you see another side of a villain, and you realize, oh my God, and these just kind of, I don't know if epiphany is the right word, but that was something else that was totally unusual.
Yeah.
Usually villains just go around blowing people's heads off or whatever.
Of course.
But Deathlock, there was more to Deathlock than met the eye. But that's, if not my favorite scene, that's always the one that kind of maybe impressed me the most. Because, Derek proposed to Nova, and the line of IQ9, where he's describing Dr. Sane as just, let's see, I won't get it right, just slightly eccentric, about 5 degrees. That kind of just clever writing. And, just awesome stories and awesome, character design and just awesome all over the place.
Now, besides Nova, because I would assume she's your favorite, who would you say is your next favorite character?
Well, the one that I got, I don't know if you're familiar with a series actually called The Irresponsible Captain Tyler. That was also done a number of years ago. They also did an OVA series, which gave kind of a backstory of like the supporting characters in a lot of the episodes. And there was one episode that has a character named Miranda, and she had dark hair, and she was, here again, they wanted somebody who didn't sound really cartoony, but because there was some meat to this character. I wish I had more time to give you a little bit more information about her. But if you search Miranda, Irresponsible Captain Tyler OVA, you'll probably be able to look at her, or maybe see a clip on YouTube or something like that. But that is the character that I got as a result of the director being a fan of Star Blazers. he was
so
doing this other
awesome.
project, and there was a character that hadn't been cast yet, and he contacted me and asked me if I'd like to do it. So those two are actually the only ones I've ever done. So,
Now, would you say you preferred doing voice work over doing stage work, or vice versa?
Well, I haven't done stage work in quite a while. Actually, ever since Star Blazers.
After that, you were just like, just voice.
Yeah,
this is great.
yeah. Once like I said, once we finished the Comet Empire, here again, because of the way we produced each of the episodes, they would record each of us individually, and then when everything had been, all the audio tracks had been laid down, then they would go back and mix them with sound effects and get the master copies done, and then they would put it on the air. So I didn't even see a completed episode from start to finish until they started airing them. And they kept changing the broadcast time too, which just irritated me.
I bet, because you're like, I just want to see my work.
I know, because I was out auditioning for other stuff.
Of course.
One job ends, you got to go.
You
out
got to
and
keep
hustle
going.
it.
Even in the middle
Yeah,
of the job, you got to
focus-
search for it.
Yeah, and focus on the next one. So I was out auditioning, and sometimes I'd be home at 3:30 in the afternoon, when at the time it was airing at 3:30, and then they changed it to 7:30 in the morning. And I thought, well, like I said, I couldn't afford a VCR to record them, so it was just one frustration after another. So I didn't actually see the entire box set, the entire series, until whatever it was, 12 or 15 years ago, when the DVDs and like VHS tapes and DVDs started coming out.
I can imagine that was a
actually
surreal moment for you to be like, oh my gosh, this is when it all is together.
Oh goodness! So yeah, it's just been the most amazing experience for me. And like I said, it's one that I will never take for granted, and of which I am fiercely protective. So anybody gonna mess with it? Yeah.
Yeah, you hear? Don't try to mess with Star Blazers. Don't. I wouldn't if I were you.
That's right. I'll have to show you my frowny face, and that wouldn't be fun.
No. Well, I don't want to keep you for too much longer if your phone is cutting out.
Oh, I know. Technology is fine when it works.
Exactly.
But, it's like give me two tin cans and a piece of string, and that'll be a reliable connection.
Oh yeah.
That's what we used to use when we were kids, and it was just the coolest thing. You didn't have any batteries to worry about or any of that stuff. So, but anyway, we figured it out and we made it happen.
We did make it happen. So I am going to turn off the recording here. Any last words for our viewers?
Well, I just hi everybody. I just lots of Nova love to all the awesome fans out there, and watch it with your kids. Watch it with their kids. They will thank you in later years.
Oh yes. Well, that concludes our episode.